I now have the pleasure to give the floor to Ms. Sri Mulyani Indrawati, Managing Director of the World Bank, to make her remarks. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary, Secretary General, distinguished panelists and delegates. It is really great pleasure that I join you for the opening of the third session of the Global Platform for Disaster Reduction and the World Reconstruction Conference. Never has such an event been more timely. The image of lives and community destroyed in recent catastrophes have touched us all. In Pakistan, Haiti, Japan, we have seen the many phases of disaster, the human tragedy of lost family, friends, and job, and physical devastations of home, school, and hospital, and also financial and economic burden of recovery and reconstruction. The frequency of disaster is increasing, and their economic costs rising. Rapid urbanization and the risks associated with changing climate can further accelerate this trend. According to recent study, the number of people living with the threat of earthquakes and cyclones in city could triple by 2050. And we know that the poorest are always hit first and hardest. The 21st century will increasingly be defined by how we address these global challenges. President Yudhoyono has shared the experience of Indonesia, how to cope and to mitigate with disaster management. As development planning as well as finance minister for Indonesia during the devastating tsunami in Aceh in 2004, I experienced firsthand the social and economic burden of disaster. Now at the World Bank, I see the global effort underway to support countries as they prepare for and reduce the risk of natural hazard, and its global effort to share good practices and lessons learned. One of our key priorities is to integrate modern disaster risk management practices into development strategy and investment policy of the country we work with. I am pleased to report that in the last 3 years, 60 country assistance strategy and 39 poverty reduction strategy papers have addressed disaster and climate change adaptation issue. That is a good start, and we will build on it. Today, we are here to open the first World Reconstruction Conference. It builds on our commitment and provides space, not only to share our experience and learn from each other, but also to agree on how we should work more effectively together to meet growing needs in both reducing risk and recovering from disaster. In this context, I would like to highlight 3 key areas that are important for us to work in order to achieve progress. First, effective framework. Second, reliable reconstruction and recovery finance. And third, integrating risk mitigation and climate adaptation in all reconstruction and development activity. Let me briefly explain each. First, on developing an effective framework for post-disaster recovery and reconstruction. When a crisis hits, affected countries often experience a wave of international goodwill, which require coordinating a large number of actors. Government in advanced economy generally have the capacity to lead and coordinate and planning the whole recovery process. But many developing countries can be overwhelmed. That was my experience when I was in the Ministry of Development Planning in Indonesia facing with the tsunami in 2004. Despite repeated large-scale assistance operations around the world, not much common understanding has evolved across development partner and national government over the policy, strategy, financing, institutional, implementation, and measurement aspect of recovery and reconstruction program. The role and responsibility of various partners remain unclear. Duplication and lack of good planning can jeopardize the speed and quality of reconstruction. Therefore, I believe an effective reconstruction and recovery framework should be developed that can better define roles and responsibility within clear institutional arrangement, capitalize effectively on the strengths of various stakeholders, and clearly place country in the driver's seat of decision-making and resource allocation, and then provide in time relevant knowledge and lesson learned, and assist in establishing robust and transparent quality and result monitoring system. Second, improving access to reliable reconstruction and recovery finance. Financing recovery is very costly and can divert resources intended for much needed investment for development. International financial support is critical, but often uneven and dependent on when and where disaster strikes. The OECD Development Aid Committee report that outside financing and donation usually offset less than 10% of country disaster losses. As a result, developing countries often don't have enough resources for what needed. And with whatever is available, there is no guarantee it gets to those people who need it, and in a timely manner. Countries that depend on external aid operate and plan without exactly knowing what financial resources will be available to them. Having said that, let me also raise another concern. When funds do arrive, a lack of capacity to manage those funds and a pressure to implement quickly can result in a misuse of funds. We need to find better way to provide access to reliable reconstruction finance, build capacity to manage the surge of resource, and better integrate the resources of private foundation and NGO effectively, and then develop instruments to tap the financial capacity of global capital market. The World Bank recently announced a crisis response window within the International Development Association. Contingency funding is set aside for low-income countries facing economic crisis, food crisis, or natural disaster event. In addition, countries such as Costa Rica, Guatemala, El Salvador, Colombia, and Peru are using new risk financing instrument. We call it Catastrophic Risk Deferred Drawdown Option, or CAT-DDO, to have access to immediate liquidity following natural disaster. These are steps in the right direction, but more need to be done. Finally, let me say a few words about integrating risk mitigation and climate adaptation in all reconstruction and development activity. Disaster prevention pays both in terms of life saved and budget protected. Better still, it often does not cost more. In addition, low-cost mitigation measures can be very effective. In 1991, for example, 138,000 people lost their life when Bangladesh cyclone hit. Since then, Bangladesh has invested in early warning system and cyclone shelter. The country has built a volunteer system for rapid evacuation. Thanks to this effort, the number of deaths has been drastically reduced. During Cyclone Sidr in 2007, only 3,400 people died. Bangladesh continued to improve its system. We need to assist country in guiding the incentive, structure, and policy environment toward risk mitigation and climate adaptation. At the same time, I would like to urge international organizations, donors, NGO, and the private sector to intensify their effort to integrate risk mitigation and climate adaptation in their regular development and investment portfolio. To achieve progress in this area, I have highlighted action is needed on many fronts, and in particular in the management of knowledge, development of partnership, and cultivation of innovation. I am encouraged by the testimony of partnership, cooperation, knowledge sharing, and innovation, which is the solid basis of the global platform and World Reconstruction Conference. This forum offered an unparalleled opportunity to explore the ideas and advance the discussion in this critical area. I am personally excited to contribute to this effect, and I look forward to challenging debate and ideas for moving ahead with partnership. Thank you.